Do you ever feel like you're the biggest obstacle in your own success? If so, you're not alone. Self-sabotage is sneaky, but it usually boils down to 3 core behaviors. Let's break them down so you can break free. Now, before we talk about the 3 core behaviors of self-sabotage, I invite you, if you really want to break the cycle of self-sabotage, to take our self-sabotage quiz based on 3 decades of helping clients overcome this very challenge. We'll help you identify which of the 7 styles of self-sabotage is your primary style, and you'll get access to our 33-page report which dives deep on each of the patterns and, most importantly, shares strategies to help you get back on track. I'll put the link down in the description for the quiz. Now, as we dive into these 3 core behaviors of self-sabotage, our outcome here is that you can disrupt these patterns and replace them with more productive ones. To do that, let me share with you 3 steps for lasting change. And the acronym to remember this is AIR, A-I-R. The A stands for awareness. It is often said that awareness is the first step to change because you can't change something if you're not aware that it needs to be changed. And that need part is important because we're not just talking about awareness, but also agreement. Imagine you're a smoker and you go to your doctor and they say you've got to quit. And you wave them off. You're like, I know, don't worry, I will one of these days. Is that awareness? I don't think so. Not in the way that we're talking about. It has to be awareness and agreement that it is a problem and that it has to change. The I in our acronym stands for intervention. Now, this is where the change happens, and what happens here depends on what the challenge is. In our self-sabotage quiz, we reveal the 7 styles of self-sabotage and that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to intervention. But I'll give you some tips coming up when we dive into the 3 core behaviors. And the last step for lasting change is R, which is reinforcement. Change can happen in an instant. Reinforcement is what gets it to stick. Going to the gym once isn't enough. It has to become a habit. With that in mind, let's start with the first part, awareness. So what exactly is self-sabotage? Well, self-sabotage is when we act against our own best interests, often without even realizing it. It's like setting a goal to eat healthier, then suddenly finding yourself at the drive-thru ordering donuts. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it looks like procrastination, sometimes it looks like overcommitment, and sometimes it's working really hard, but on the wrong things. But no matter how it shows up, at its core, self-sabotage comes down to 3 key behaviors. And once you recognize them, you can start making real change. Let's start with number 1, which is not doing what you should, also known as avoidance and procrastination. And one of the biggest ways that people sabotage themselves is by avoiding the very things that would move them forward. This can look like putting off important tasks until the last minute or never, avoiding difficult conversations because they feel uncomfortable, or even dreaming about a big goal but never taking action on it. And why does this happen? Fear of failure, fear of rejection. You might think to yourself, what if I try and this doesn't work? It could even be perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, I might as well not do it at all. Or discomfort avoidance. I'll start when I feel ready. Spoiler alert, that perfect moment never comes. So how do you break this pattern? The first is recognizing that action creates clarity. If you're stuck, don't wait for motivation. Take one small step forward, even if it's imperfect, and build momentum with quick wins. Set a tiny goal, just enough to get started, and then celebrate that progress. If you can shift from waiting to doing, you can break free from the cycle. Now let's talk about the opposite problem, which is number 2, doing too much, which leads to overcommitment and burnout. Now, if avoiding action is one way that we sabotage ourselves, the other extreme is trying to do too much, all at once. This can look like taking on more than you can handle, saying yes to everything, even when it spreads you too thin, and overcomplicating things, feeling like you have to do everything yourself. And why does this happen? One is fear of missing out, otherwise known as FOMO. If I don't do this, I'll fall behind. Perhaps seeking validation through busyness or equating activity with progress, and avoiding the discomfort of slowing down because resting can feel unproductive even when it's necessary. So how do you fix this? One is to focus on what's essential. Ask yourself, what actually is going to move the needle here? The key is to do less, but better. Learn how to say no. Not everything deserves your energy, and prioritize what truly matters, and trust the process. Remember, progress isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right things consistently. And speaking of the right things, let's talk about the third major behavior of self-sabotage, which is number 3, doing the wrong things, otherwise known as distraction and misalignment. This one is tricky because it feels like you're making progress, but you're actually just spinning your wheels. This is sometimes called active procrastination. Oftentimes it looks like we're working really hard, but just happens to be on the wrong priorities. We're staying busy, but with low-value tasks instead of things that actually drive results and move the needle. We're chasing goals that don't even align with what you really want in life and in business. And why does this happen? Well, it could be fear of facing deeper issues. Busy work is a great way to avoid dealing with the uncomfortable truths that we're dealing with, or lack of clear priorities. If you don't know what matters most, everything feels urgent. And we go into autopilot mode. You're just going through the motions without checking if you're heading in the right direction. So how do you shift out of this? Well, first, remember the 80-20 rule, and that is that 80% of your results come from 20% of your behaviors. Focus on high-impact actions. With periodic check-ins, ask yourself, am I working hard on the right things? And align your goals with your long-term vision. If it doesn't move you closer to where you want to be, why are you doing it? When you start making intentional choices instead of just staying busy, everything begins to change. And there's one more variation on number 3 here that I want to mention. Sometimes the self-sabotaging gets so bad that they not only do the wrong things, they do things wrong. They turn in an incomplete report. They drop the ball in a major project. This is oftentimes a major signal from the unconscious mind that there is misalignment in their life. It could be values conflicts, could be self-esteem issues, or feelings of burnout. Because when self-sabotage reaches this point, it's not about fixing productivity, it's about uncovering what's really going on underneath the surface. So to recap, self-sabotage comes down to 3 main behaviors: not doing what you should, doing too much, and doing the wrong things. The good news, these patterns aren't who you are, they're just habits, and habits can be changed. Remember, breaking the cycle of self-sabotage isn't about willpower, it's about awareness, intervention, and reinforcement. And if you want to go deeper, don't forget to take the self-sabotage quiz to discover your style and get the strategies to overcome it. The link is in the description. And if you have 5.5 minutes and you'd like to productively learn about the inner ego battles that hold you back, check out this video on screen. That's it for now. Until next time, develop yourself, empower others, and lead by example.